everyone, I'm Emma from Art Science Museum. We're very happy to have you with us today for the last session of Let's Talk About for this season. I hope everyone has been getting used to the new normal so far, although sometimes I still do forget to wear my mask when I leave the house. And perhaps with many of you, I'm also looking forward to the day where I can play with my friends without my mask and have big gatherings with my friends and family. Similar to many other places around the world, Art Science Museum had to keep our doors closed for a little while to keep you and everyone around safe. But now, with safe distancing practices in place, the museum's doors are open, but we will continue to meet you online to remain connected with you. That's why it's really exciting for us to have all of you here today with us. Let's Talk About is part of the many programs that are available online with Art Science at Home for you to enjoy. Through many exciting workshops, virtual tours, and performances, you can learn how to make your own crafts, tour Art Science Museum, or even watch performances in the comforts of your own homes. If it's your first time joining us today, every episode of Let's Talk About would want to answer the questions that have always been on your minds, but you can't find any answers for them. For example, have you ever wondered how do some of your friends have such close relationships with their neighbors, such that they can pop into one another's house so freely? Why is that your friend is able to address the neighborhood uncles and aunties and even the community cats by their names? Why does your friend's neighborhood have way cooler features than yours? Let's find out more today by talking about the neighborhood that we live in. Discover how each neighborhood in Singapore is unique and how friendships within the neighborhood are made over time. Today's session will start with an introduction, followed by a craft activity, before ending with a Q&A session. Right now, we are live on YouTube and Facebook, so please feel free to pop in questions or thoughts in the chat box below and they will be answered later on. Now let's hear a bit more from my friend Jonathan, who is the co-founder of ReadAble and part of the Birthday Collective. Over to you, Jonathan.
Everyone. Yes. Okay. So today we're going to talk about a topic called where we live, and we're going to talk specifically about this neighborhood called Jalan Kukoh. To be clear, that's not where I live, but that's where I serve together with some people. We are friends with a few families in this neighborhood, and there's just something so special about this neighborhood that we learn from them. And I thought that's something that it's quite beautiful to share to everyone today. Okay. So where is Jalan Kukoh? If you look at Google Maps, this is Jalan Kukoh. You can see that it's quite near Kin Sui. For the ones who are a bit older, you will see that this is quite near Chinatown, right? And quite a few families live here. So this was one of the photos that was taken by one of our volunteers while we were on a walk around Jalan Kukoh. It seems like a very plain neighborhood, but if you go inside the neighborhood, you begin to see that the families that live in this neighborhood live in properties, live in houses that are quite different from what you and I may be used to, right? And if you look at it over here, right, you will see this is the basketball court. Can you see this basketball court over here, right, in the center, right? Now, this is what it looks like from Google Earth, right, Google Maps. And from the other perspective, we also see that over here, there is just a lot of friends who stay in the flats in this neighborhood here, right? This is another road that I'm quite used to. And frankly speaking, we haven't been able to go and serve in this neighborhood for quite regularly now because of COVID. But we're hoping that the day ends, all this ends, and we can get back to normal where we see our friends weekly. So when you begin to look inside the home of one of these houses, you begin to see that the houses can be quite cramped because they are quite small. Maybe because the families just don't have enough and can't purchase something as big as what we're used to, right? But then, because of they also have a very beautiful spirit in this neighborhood, and you can see that from this story, where we at ReadAble have written together with one of our friends who is age 14 in the neighborhood, and the story is called "What My Neighbors in Jalan Kukoh Taught Me." So what did your neighbors teach them, right? Let's read this story together, right? It goes, "My neighbors and I have been very close since they moved next door. They are very kind and caring towards me. Whenever I had problems in school, or when I needed help with my schoolwork, my neighbor would help me with it. Even when I didn't have food, or when my water has been cut off because my family did not have enough money to pay the bills, they will let me take showers in their house. They have taught me to care about others, regardless of their age, religion, race, language, size, or weight. They have made a small yet admirable impact on me because they were not specific about which races to be associated with. Even though they are Filipinos and I am Indian, the lessons that they taught me were to understand and care about others with different backgrounds or to situations and to be nicer to everyone. I realized that asking others how their day went wouldn't hurt at all, right? So let's break this story down. This story is about a girl who is an Indian girl, and she has got neighbors who are Filipinos and who are very helpful to her, right? And what are the two ways she mentions in this article? Number one, with her schoolwork, and number two, by allowing her to take showers in their house. Yeah. And I think underlying this story is a beautiful story, right? But it is also a story about friendship. And my question to us is, what does being a friend look like, right? This neighborhood is full of friendships. And I will then now talk a little bit more about ReadAble and what we do. ReadAble is an organization that started because we are trying to teach kids how to read and how to write well. And we try to incorporate this element of friendship that we find in this neighborhood, right? So for example, this neighborhood, you will see a lot of the spirit of friendship, and people do things together. And we try to incorporate that into our lessons at ReadAble. And I'll show it to you via a few pictures, right? So you can see here, right? We conduct lessons with the kids in the neighborhood. You will see here that this is a lesson on fruits, right? And we try to do things together with the kids, right? Because we try to see them as friends. You see here that there is a real fruit here, and the kids are interacting with all of us in the lesson, right? We are equally participating in the lesson. Now, compare that to what you get in school, right? Where you have a teacher and then she's teaching you and she's like telling you what to do, right? This looks like a very different process. Another thing we tried to do, one of the activities that we had was to, on this lesson on fruits, try to experiment with the kids. Like, for example, we'll blindfold them and then we'll let them taste the fruit and we ask them, what fruit is this? And this is them telling us what fruit it is. And you can again see that we're all having fun together as friends. Sometimes the kids also are quite curious about the things that we have. And when they ask us about it, we'll tell them. So this kid, for example, is very curious about the DSLR camera that we were using, and he wanted to try and take a camera. So we taught him how to take a photo using the DSLR, right? And for the younger ones, we have got activities to teach them how to recognize objects and alphabets. So that's another thing that we do here. We have a lot of our lessons are quite interactive because we try to incorporate this element of friendship in it. This extends most recently to us teaching the kids how to count. You can see here that there are a few objects. So we've got the blocks over here, the green color blocks. We've got the blue color blocks, and then we've got the numbers, and of course this cube right here, which all help kids to learn how to count up to 100. Right? Have you seen any of these in school? Because apparently they are really fun and they help you to learn numbers a lot better. Right. And I think over here, to be honest, I don't know what this activity is, but again, the kids are quite enthusiastic about it. And the learning process is more like learning with a friend, right? So that's what we do at ReadAble. We teach how to read and write and count. And we try to do it using this idea of friendship that we have learned a lot from the neighborhood. What about you? What does a friend look like? What does a friend look like to you? Do you have relationships with the people in your neighborhood, just like the people in this neighborhood have? Your house may look like this, or it may look like this. But how many of you actually know your neighbors? Or is your place just you, yourself, your family, and that's it? Right? Your neighbors are strangers to you, you don't really know them. Right? Some of the ideas that have come up recently are, like, for example, this mother who got her 5-year-old to make thank you packages for people who deliver parcels to your house. And this is a very nice gesture because when you deliver the house to so many houses, right, you can feel very tired. And when you get a thank you package, it will really make your day. You really feel happy because of it. Or you have got a preschooler that loves the migrant workers enough to say thank you to them, right? I don't know what exactly she did, but this is quite impressive, right? And the idea came from them. So again, I think there are many things you can do. The question is, do we look at our neighborhood, look at what it's like, and think about what we can do in the neighborhood? And I think back to ReadAble, okay? So let me just conclude with a few things that we have some happy pictures of ReadAble. This was a story in which we managed to bring them on board a aeroplane interior because a lot of them haven't been on an aeroplane before. And you can see that at this outing, everyone was really having fun and they were all, it was like a family outing. And I think that's what we really liked about this outing. But more than that, it's because of this idea of friendship that for some people in the families, we've gone above teaching. We are more than teachers now because some of them, we help them to do up a business. So this lady here, her name is Ija. She has developed a menu during COVID, and we've helped them to develop a business out of it. The second thing is for some of our kids who write stories, we have featured them on an Instagram page called Humans of Kukoh, right? And these are stories they can all be very proud of because they really tell very good stories about the neighborhood that we have. And I think if you on your own end start on such getting to know your neighborhood, you may begin to discover the friendships that the people in Jalan Kukoh have discovered for themselves also. Right, and that's the end of my presentation. Back to you, Emma.
Thank you, Jonathan, for sharing with us the little things and action that help make Jalan Kukoh and its residents so special. Indeed, there seem to be many things we can do in our everyday lives to help make our own neighborhood special as well. Your neighborhood may have a friendly auntie at the mama shop where you always get your ice cream from, or even the seniors who regularly do their morning exercises at the basketball court, whom you always wave to on your way to school. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce my friend Dina, who will, together with you, be doing a craft to better understand your own neighborhood and community. Dina, please.
Thank you, Emma, and a very warm welcome to everyone. I'm Dina, and just before we begin with today's craft activity, I would like for all of you to take a moment to digest what we have learned about this neighborhood that is Jalan Kukoh. And all the wonderful stories of this place. I'm sure we at how do we our neighborhood. So for today's craft activity, let's get to know our neighborhood better by creating a map of where we live. So what is a map? A map shows a location of places and things, and this is where you will make a list of the places and things you want to include in your map, like the convenience store, the blocks of flats, the exercise corner, or even the playground. And some of the materials you need are a magazine, a piece of paper, scissors, marker, and glue. And once you have that ready, you can start by drawing it out. So imagine you're hanging in the sky looking at your block from the sky. So you can start off by drawing a block of flat first. So that's where I live. It's not a long flat, it's pretty small. And there are many flats just next to it. There's one right across it. Other than blocks of flats, you also think about like the trees. How many trees are there around your area? I have a lot of huge trees just next to my block, so just scribble it out. Is there a street or a road? So include that as well. There's a roundabout and the road leads out. So draw it very briefly. And are there shops? You can use different shapes to represent all of these places. And once you have it all drawn out like that, this is where you use your magazine to cut out different colors to represent these places. So here I have with me some cut out pieces of magazine that are of different colors like blue, there's some red, yellow, and green. You might already guess green represents all the trees. So have it cut out and then you can stick it on where the trees are, right? So like what I've done over here. So just have a lot of fun with it. So the trees are all green in color. The exercise corners are in red and the shops are in blue. Right? The blocks of flats are in orange. And I've also written them down. So like this one is a school, the one in pink. So I would just write school on it. So don't worry about the legend. You can write all of these places down on your cute little map. All right. And what I like to do also is include where are these places that you frequent a lot. So from where I live, I make a lot of trips to the park. So I would first go to the playground. There's a very nice swing that I like to go on. And then I would continue my path to the park. I also go to the shop a lot, or the mama shop near where I live. So just include a path where you visit these places very frequently. And last but not least, don't forget, a neighborhood can be made up of all these wonderful places and things. But how best to know our community is the people that live in it. So don't forget to include your neighbors as well. So as you can see, I included a fuzzy smiley sticker. So this is where Chi Ima, who lives directly opposite me, who cooks really well. So she shares a lot of her lovely dishes with us. And there's also Uncle Lim, who stays directly opposite the block. Yeah, so include your neighbors in as well, because a community is made up of people that live in the neighborhood, and also the relationship that we have to the neighborhood and to each other. So don't worry if you're not too familiar with your neighborhood where you live. Perhaps over the weekend, take a stroll and identify what's in your neighborhood. Is it the playground? Is it the convenience store? Is it a park, a school? Bring a notebook with you and sketch out all of these places. Notice the distance from your house to the park or from your house to the shops, and really just sketch it out, and then plan to make your own community map, because how best to know your neighborhood is to take a walk and enjoy your stroll around the neighborhood. So today we have created not only a map of our neighborhood, but also a map of our community as well. And remember the message about being a friend, not only to those you've known since kindergarten or from school, but also not forgetting friends in your neighborhood, in your community. Get to know them better, find out what their names are, and greet them when you see them. You know how little things always go a long way? So it's never too late to start now. Thank you for joining me in this craft activity. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and now I hand the time back to Emma. Emma, please.
Thank you, Dina, for sharing the special things around your neighborhood. Now I'd like to invite Jonathan back for the Q&A session. Hello, Jonathan. So we actually have a comment from Christine Lee sharing with us that her grandkids actually feel that their neighborhood is special because their neighbors love them. So that's so really so heartwarming to hear, and I'm sure many of us are curious, me included, Christine and her grandchildren. If you are around, please let us know what are some of the ways your family show your love to your neighbors. So hi, Jonathan.
Bye.
So actually, through your presentations earlier, a lot of thoughts actually went through my mind. with what you have shared as well on ReadAble and how your team works very closely with the residents of the various workshops to enhance their learning process. So I'm just wondering, like, what exactly inspired you and your team to kickstart ReadAble?
I think for each of us, right, who came together to start ReadAble, we all have different reasons for doing it. I'll just tell you my reason, okay? My reason is because I was visiting a few families doing food distribution work with my church. And I think through the interactions, I discovered that there were a lot of kids in the estate who couldn't really read and write properly. And that basically means you are quite dead in school, right? If you can't read and write. Recently, I had a kid, in his report book, it said 0 for English and 0 for maths because he couldn't understand the instructions on the exam paper. So that's the reason why we started ReadAble. I actually went home and prayed about it, and the next week, I met my co-founders who were crazy enough to say, let's start something together.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's really nice. It's quite amazing that how incredible, like how really just a short interaction that y'all had while delivering food, y'all were actually able to pick up the children and their literacy level at Jalan Kukoh.
Yeah,
And
but
really,
to be fair, it's like it was quite intense because every time we visited, it would be like half an hour talking to them.
sorry, you were what?
It's about half an hour in their houses talking to them. So it's actually quite intensive.
Right, cool. That's really interesting to know. I'm just wondering, like, how about like the parents of the children? I know there were a lot of focus on like helping the children to be literate. So how does the team actually aim to help to engage the parents as well to ensure that literacy actually goes beyond what their children get, but it's also for them, such that eventually they are able to help their own kids.
So there are two things, right? The first is you've got parents who whether they can help their kids, and that may not necessarily take the form of literacy lessons. That can take in the form of active engagement with parents, which we do quite extensively. And then the second one is whether the parents also learn themselves. And what we do have some volunteers who teach the mums of the volunteers if they are willing and able to learn. But for parents, it's a very different game altogether when you talk about education. Because they got very different things to think about when you compare to kids.
Right. Okay. That's quite interesting. So the parents, like, how was the experience so far with the parents when you're engaged your parents and those parents who are willing to be engaged when they drop off their children at the center?
Depends. There are parents and there are parents, right? Some of them are very actively engaged. They talk to us. They are like our friends, and some of them are a little bit harder to engage because they may not be so forthcoming. But then again, it's a bit like trying to see whether your friends are friendly or not, right? Some people are more friendly than others, right?
Yeah. Right. So actually, I've been reading up on ReadAble and I realized that you guys have been around for a couple of years. And I believe your team probably has a really long-standing relationship with the residents. So what are some of the initiatives that have sprung up from ReadAble to further enhance the lives of the residents in Jalan Kukoh beyond literacy?
Okay, so a few things. I can think of a few things. The first is when during HBL, during circuit breaker, we were kind of forced to source for laptops and Wi-Fi for all the families that we serve. And I think we can be quite proud of the fact that a lot of our families, they managed to get for them laptops and Wi-Fi. So almost all our families were quite adequately served during HBL. The second one is I think during circuit breaker also, one of our core team members, Samantha, she came up with this idea of helping some of the ladies develop home-based businesses. And then through her efforts, I think some of the families have really developed a solid home-based business. You can check it out. It's called Project Kukoh, Cookoh. Yeah, it's a bit funny, but yes, that's what it is. And yeah, I think as a result of that, some of them have been featured in the press, and you can read more about them if you Google.
So that's Project Cookoh, is it?
Yeah,
KOH. Okay.
And I think one more is for our kids, the writing, some of our older kids, the writings that they do of the stories in the estate, we have published them on a platform called Humans of Kukoh, and you can read the picture that you can read the stories there and see what these are about.
Yeah, which was the things that you shared in the earlier slides. Right. Yeah. So Other than this, I'm sure you have came across many different children and really impacted their lives. What's maybe one of your greatest story to tell from your experience with working with the kids in
So
Jalan Kukoh?
we have there is this boy that we have known since he was about 3 years old. And when we first knew him, he was a very shy boy. He didn't want to come for lesson. Every time his mom brought him for lesson, then he would start crying and then doesn't want to let go of his mom. Right now, this same boy today, he's B2 now, and he is way ahead. He's really literate, like he's reading very advanced stuff. And most recently, he asked us to teach him philosophy. So we got a friend to teach him philosophy. And it's not something that we ask him to learn. It's something that he wants to learn. Like, why would a kid want to learn philosophy? But okay, we strike when the battle is hot, right? If you want to learn, we teach you.
So, what are some of the ways to teach philosophy to a child?
Oh, that one don't ask me. You ask the volunteer who teaches him. I have no idea. I can't teach philosophy. In fact, I don't even think I know much about philosophy.
That's really interesting. I think really like all the good that you are doing is really following this saying that goes, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. So it's very evident that what your team is doing in Jalan Kukoh, like, when I read about website, it says beating poverty one word at a time. And to me, I feel like that's a really powerful phrase which really caught my eye. So with your experience today, how would you advise all the people who are actually helping and volunteering now that are reaching out to communities in need for like how can they help to actually contribute to a longer term positive impacts instead of just a come help and you leave kind of context?
There needs to be there needs to be a reframing of what we see volunteerism as. If we forever think about it as I am the benefactor and you are the beneficiary, right? We'll get nowhere. You'll forever be just I just come and volunteer and that's it. I think you can only do the deep work with a family if you show that you treat them as your equal, and you treat them as the people who deserve dignity. And I think we've really tried to do that very consciously at ReadAble, which is why I think the families, then anything they need, they just come to us and they tell us because we are like their friends.
Yeah. So your advice to volunteers now is probably like to just go beyond like this status thing and see everyone as equal.
Yeah, that must be it, right?
And I think you also mentioned before like how committing time on a regularity basis is a very crucial part beyond financial things as well, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. How about your recruitment? Like, how do you all actually sort of go through your recruitment process for volunteers to ensure that your volunteers actually really do commit on a regularity kind of context?
So for that one, whoever volunteers with us, we usually have a half an hour conversation with them to tell them what they're about and to find out more about them and to set the expectations right so that everybody understands why they're here for, and they know what they can expect, and then I think that sort of helps things a lot because we usually emphasize the regularity thing and the commitment thing quite strongly at some of these talks.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys are also looking forward to with all the measures being lifted, and then you guys can continue the on-site programs with the children and families as well, right?
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah, so it almost seems like a tradition now on our fourth session, and I'd like to ask like this last question because I'm quite conscious of the time now. On behalf of all the educators and parents who are tuning today, what are some of the recommendations, for the adults to know such that they can continue the conversation to help children better understand, there's like we're living in here, but then there are many actually different types of community and people in Singapore.
I think a healthy habit to have, and this applies to everybody, right? If we need to always question our assumptions, right? We always question our assumptions. And I think a lot of people will tell you that, for example, this is very simple one, right? Upgrading, right? Taking courses and then passing them. That's something that it's quite obvious to us that you want to upgrade. You take a course and then you pass it and then you go on, right? And then I think for one of the mothers, we tried to encourage her to take an exam so that she can get a qualification in English, right? And when we asked her to do it, she freaked out. She's like, why? Because then we realized, don't assume that people are necessarily comfortable with this. Because, and we found out at the end of the day that this lady, we knew that she could pass, right? We're teaching her and we know what she's about, but she just didn't believe in herself. Right? She has failed school so many times, and when you keep failing and failing and failing, after a while you see yourself as failure, and you don't have any confidence in yourself. That's why she didn't want to do the exam. And then she took it lah. She got 80 lah. So we told her you pass.
Wow, that's really good. Which I know I said that was my last question, but actually I realized now you talked about this. One of the questions that I was wondering also is like, I'm sure many of us, or maybe even some of us, even in the more affluent or richer public housing areas, there will be actually households that require more help than others. So how do your team, while working in Jalan Kukoh, ensure as much as possible all the residents who needs help did not fall through the gaps that you guys are actually providing over there?
I think our philosophy is a bit different. We don't purposely go out to look for the families. A lot of the families that we know, they come to us. And when they come to us, we tell them what we are about. We tell them what we can and what we cannot do. For example, we can't be the parent. We can help you. We can try and teach your kids concepts. But you are the parent. You see your kids 24/7. You better make sure they know the concepts, they understand. We can't do that, right, for you. And so we always tell the parents that you have to know that you are the parent. There is a reason why you are the parent. You need to play your part as a parent.
Right. Thanks so much, Jonathan. Thank you. I know we are slightly beyond the time, so I would like to probably wrap up our session now. So thank you for your time, Jonathan, and I'd like to invite Dina back. Thank you, Dina, for your time as well. And thank you everyone who is joining us today. So this is one of the many programs we are presenting for Art Science at Home, which are all available for viewing online. So please feel free to head to our website, Facebook, and Instagram for more information. We have now come to the end of our session. So see you next time, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.